Hi, this is Joel Johnson, Certified Financial Planner and the Managing Partner of Johnson Brunetti. And at Johnson Brunetti, as you all know, we're retirement and investment specialists. And so today, in light of that, we're going to talk about the magic retirement number. Years ago, I remember seeing a commercial on TV, and it was, "What is your number?" And different neighbors would be walking around in this little neighborhood, and they'd have different numbers hanging over their heads. In orange, you can kind of figure out what company that might have been. And one person would have $1 million, and another person would have 600,000, another person would have $1.7 million. And that would represent the amount of money that they needed, their magic retirement number that they needed to retire. And so today, what I thought we would talk about is, what is your number? What are the numbers out there as far as the statistics and what's going on here in the United States when it comes to retirement and people being prepared for retirement? And so Northwestern Mutual, the big insurance company out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, they surveyed more than 4,500 adults and came out with some interesting statistics on what it takes to retire based on what those 4,500 adults wanted in income. And keep in mind, before I show you these numbers, I want you to keep in mind that retirement is about monthly income. It's not about having a pile of money, but it's about how much money can I get every month to spend to do the things I want to do. And the reason I preface showing you the next slide here by saying that is because sometimes when people see the number, they think, oh my gosh, if I just had that much, I'd be filthy rich. But you've got to remember that if somebody retires at age 65, it's very possible they'll be alive at 95, which means whatever that number is, it's got to provide income for us for the next 30 years. So according to this Northwestern Mutual survey, to retire comfortably, it takes $1.46 million. $1.46 million to retire comfortably. And my guess is roughly that's probably about $100,000 a year coming into the house for you to spend every single month. Every single year. So $100,000 a year coming in between Social Security, pension, and personal savings. And what they're saying is your personal savings needs to be about $1.46 million. Now, interestingly enough, just last year, the number was $1.27 million. Well, how could it grow that much in 1 year? How could we say that in 2023, the number was 1.27, and this year it's 1.46 million? Well, that is because of inflation. That gives you a perfect snapshot of, hey, the cost of living goes up. So like I said, this number, this magic number, we're all trying to figure out what's my number. It's big because we've got to give ourselves raises. If I can live on $10,000 a month today, and I'm going to live for another 30 years from now, I might need $25,000 a month to do the things that I can do today with $10,000 a month. It's just simple inflation. So what's your number? What is your actual number? Do you know? Have you done a financial plan to figure out exactly how much you need for retirement? And sometimes figuring out what the number is a little bit difficult because we go at it the wrong way. Again, people think of retirement as, oh, if I just have X amount saved, I'll be fine. And that's really the wrong way to think about it. Really, the way we should be thinking about retirement is we should be thinking about what monthly amount do I want to spend. Because I can tell you right now from being in this business for over 30 years that there are people with a smaller pile of money that generate more income off that pile of money than people with a bigger pile of money, because the people with the bigger pile of money might not be investing it right, they might not be paying attention to taxes, and so on. So again, continuing to talk about this magic number, and the real question is, what is your specific number? A few other things to think about here. According to the Fed, in 2022, households aged 65 to 74, the average household had savings of about $600,000. So $600,000. Now, we just talked about what the number is, and now we're talking about what the reality is, the $600,000 that the average household has saved. And if you think about that, there's some really wealthy people in the U.S. There's also parts of the U.S., particularly here in the Northeast, where Johnson Brunetti has 10 offices, where you need $1 million, $1.2 million just to feel like 600,000 might feel in Arkansas or in Kansas or in another Midwestern state, because the cost of living is so high. So if the average savings is $600,000, what that simply means is there's a lot of people with only $50,000, $75,000, $100,000 saved, and we really are marching into a retirement crisis countrywide. Not for everybody. As a matter of fact, if you're watching this video, chances are you care about financial planning, You might be a good saver because people that are horrible savers don't tend to watch financial content on the internet. But there are a lot of people that just simply have not saved enough money. So only about 2% of Fidelity 401k investors have balances of over $1 million. Fidelity is, of course, as you know, almost everybody's heard of Fidelity, but they are one of the largest 401k custodians in the U.S. So if you work for a big giant company, one of the Fortune 100 companies, chances are Fidelity is the custodian of your 401k. So they have all this data on average balances. They have data on how people invest, how often people switch funds. And one of the things that they've said is, and they would know, is only 2% of 401k investors have over $1 million saved. So again, what's the point here that I'm making? The point is we're marching into a time where there are really going to be a bigger separation than there already is of the haves and have-nots, and it's so important that we take responsibility for our own retirement. You know, I think back when I was growing up, before I lived in the Northeast, we lived in the Midwest, and my grandfather, Grandpa Pete, you know, he was an immigrant. He came over here from Norway when he was 16. He worked for a company that was a food company in Minneapolis, and he had a pension and he had Social Security, and between pension and Social Security, he had more money than he ever needed for retirement. Those days are gone, right? Most of us don't have pensions anymore. Social Security isn't quite adequate for, it's inadequate for most people out there in the U.S., so we are responsible for saving for our own retirement. So if the magic number is 1.46 million, according to the Fidelity statistics and the other statistics we've talked about, most Americans are falling short. Most retirees are falling really, really short when it comes to their retirement. Now, people say, well, so what? How does that apply to me? Well, we're going to talk about exactly how it applies to you. Because the bottom line is, regardless of what's happening out there, if we're all taking responsibility for our own retirement, what do you do right now? And I'm going to give you 3 steps, 3 action steps you can take right now to, number 1, figure out what's my magic number, and then what do you do if you find out that you're falling short, okay? So the first step is, how much have you saved? Just do an inventory. I don't care if you're 45 years old or 70 years old, what do you have right now? And we're not going to count Social Security or pensions. We're going to just count your savings in the bank, your 401k, any other retirement accounts that you have, might have brokerage accounts, and so on and so forth. How much do you have set aside right now? And then the second step is, how much income do you want? And try to make this decision, try to answer this question without thinking of the constraints of number 1, right? What sometimes people do is they say, well, you know, I've got X amount saved and it's not enough, so I'm going to cut way back on my income. This is a want question. So get rid of all that baggage that you have about not saving enough. Maybe you're guilty. Maybe you spent too much money here or there. You made big investment mistakes. Forget about all that. It's just, how much do you want? So let's pretend my number is $10,000 a month. I want $10,000 a month coming in that I can spend every single month to have a quality retirement, okay? And then the third thing is, what can you change? So 3 steps you can take. Do an inventory of how much you've saved, figure out how much income you want, and then what can you change? Now, how do you know what to change? If you need to change anything, you've got to get a financial plan. You've got to sit down with a professional. I would suggest, I shouldn't say you have to sit down with a professional. Most people should sit down with a professional. Some of you can figure this out on your own, but most, even wealthy people, have outside financial advisors. So you've got to figure out, okay, how much have you saved? What's that inventory that you have? What are your assets? How much income do you want? And then put that into some kind of a software program, or go to a financial professional that has the wisdom of they don't just have the software, they've got the wisdom of working with many retirees, and figure out, how are you? Are you falling short? Do you have enough between what you've saved and Social Security and pension, if you're going to get any of those things? And then, are you falling short between that want number? So the most important number on this list, in my opinion, is number 2. How much income do you want? And then, if you are falling short, what can you change? And what are some of the variables we have here? Well, one is you could work longer. Not very exciting if you're looking forward to retirement, but some people could work longer. You could change your investment strategy. You could maybe buy certain investment products that give you a guaranteed income. That's not right for everybody, but for some people it makes sense. If you don't have a pension, you might want to take some retirement money and purchase a pension because of the guarantees that you can't outlive your money and so on. So what are the things you can change? And what this will narrow down for you, these 3 steps: how much have you saved, how much income do you want, and what can you change, It'll lay out in front of you the choices that you can make. Then if you have a partner or spouse, you can talk with that partner or spouse, you can talk with a financial professional and find out what is important to me. And another point I want to make here, which is really important, is sometimes people start going through the financial planning process and it becomes overwhelming, or they end up with a situation where they just say, what's the point? I'm never going to have enough. I do not want you to feel that way, okay? The best thing to do is take an inventory, get a realistic expectation. Maybe you have to change your retirement goals and so on. That's okay if you have to change your retirement goals and so on. But don't be afraid to get a realistic picture, because I will tell you, most people do not have the courage to get the realistic picture. Most people feel guilty that they haven't saved enough. Maybe they've made some big investment mistakes along the way. Maybe they've had a divorce situation or something like that, or they've had a spouse that's passed away, or a child they had to help out that really wrecked their retirement. It never hurts to tell yourself the truth, and we don't want you to get discouraged. We want you to feel empowered by telling yourself the truth. So 3 steps you can take right now. How much have you saved? Let's do an inventory. How much income do you want? Let's figure out what that number is, and then what can you change? And then we want to be able to help you, because here's the bottom line. You're unique. Your situation isn't like anybody else's. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks out there, whether you've done well or not. This is not some kind of a contest. This is about the quality of your retirement, and can you do the things that you want to do in retirement? And a good financial professional, again, can help you prioritize those things. We can do that. We're not the right fit for everybody, but we can certainly sit down with you and do that. Or you want to find somebody that can do that, to kind of be that counselor, whether you use them for managing your investments or not, because that counselor, that person that specializes in working with people that are retired or getting close to retirement, will have the wisdom of hundreds, or in our case, thousands of families that they've helped retire, and watching somebody go through their 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, and watching the changes that take place in people's lives. They'll have all that perspective to give you so that you can make sure that your retirement is on the right track. So again, I'm Joel Johnson with Johnson Brunetti, managing partner. You can go to our website, johnsonbrunetti.com, get all kinds of free resources. You don't even have to talk to anybody at our firm if that's intimidating to you, but you can get all kinds of great free resources on our website, johnsonbrunetti.com, to help you find out what your magic number is and to make sure you have the most quality retirement possible. Our goal at Johnson Brunetti is to remove the fear from your financial future and give you confidence in what lies ahead. And I hope that this video has given you some confidence in what lies ahead and given you some steps to take to make sure you have a great retirement.